Hi everyone, this is Catalina Liriano. Today my how-to video is based on how you drape. Basically, draping is another form of pattern making. Pattern making, for example, is if you were to go to a sewing store or some sort of, what do you call this, where they sell like the fabric, a fabric store. Okay, if you were to go to a fabric store and you wanted to buy a pattern, you would get this more or less. And what it would look like is basically a paper form of your patterns. This is not officially done. You would have to cut out based on the size that you want. So what I'm going to be doing is draping, and draping you can create the patterns on your own. So it's sort of custom fit. And so this is what you use to drape. This is called a dress form. This is more or less supposed to be the size of my body. So what you do is you get a piece of muslin, which is this type of fabric. This is the type of fabric that you get. With this fabric, you can actually make markings on it, and it's pretty flexible. So I'm going to grab a fresh piece. I'm going to go ahead and start draping. Basically draping, what I'm going to be draping today is a basic front skirt, which is pretty easy. Just going to have one dart. A dart is what conforms the body. Let's say, for instance, if you have a smaller waist and wider hips, it can kind of, create, it can kind of make it flow naturally. That seam right there. Okay, so what I want to do is lay it in the right direction. The way to find out how to lay out your fabric in the right direction is if it's stretchy along the sides and not so stretchy from top to bottom, then you know that it's correct. So I'm going to lay out my fabric. I'm going to pin it across. I'm going to give it at least, by the way, you always work from the center to the side, never full, because it's kind of double work. What you do is, to get the full piece, when you use this pattern to cut along the fabric that you want to use to sew the garment, what you do is you basically fold it. You use the fabric you want to use in a folded way, and you put this over it, and then that's how you can cut it, and it comes out as a full piece instead of half. So I'm just going to go right along here. I'm just going to pin along the center of this dress form, all the way down. And I'm leaving about a half an inch, no more an inch, left over on the side. Basically what that is for is seam allowance. So when I get ready to sew, I don't exactly go ahead and sew on that specific line that I create once I shape this, because then it's going to be too tight, so you have to give some sort of allowance in the sewing process. Okay. So this is my center front. What I'm going to do is I'm going to label it so that I know what it is. Center front, basic skirt. Okay. So here's when I can start shaping. Okay, so I'm going to lay it flat across onto the side. And if you notice, there's a gap left over here. And the reason for that is because obviously her waist is smaller than the hip area. So for instance, let's say if I was to go across, then the fabric won't lay the right way. So naturally you have to bring it up where it should lay, and you're going to have a gap. And that's fine. That's supposed to happen actually. And I'm going to show you how you can get rid of that gap. So I'm just going to pin onto the side over here. Okay. So this gap is what we're going to call the dart. The dart is the seam that goes across that area where it's narrower and wider, and that's going to make it flow naturally. So we go along there. Sorry, let me get my pink cushion. Okay, so we go along there. You're going to pin along the sides of that gap. That's going to give me an indication as to where you can put that dart. Okay. In the meantime, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do some markings with my pencil. I'm going to go along the center. And the reason why the center is so important is because once you take this off, the markings that I'm making are not permanent. So what happens is I'm just going to making a dotted line. Once I take this off of the dress form, I'm going to make truer lines, which is called truing, with a ruler, with specific rulers to use for this. So then, once that happens, when I want to put it back on the dress form, just to make sure that everything looks okay, I need to know where to start. I need to know where to lay the fabric. So basically, this is telling me that I start from here. Okay, and then I'm going to mark along the waist, just creating a dotted line along the waist, and then creating a dotted line along the sides. Okay. And that's how that works. And I'm going to pull this off. Oh, I'm forgetting. Dotted lines along my dart. My dart indentations. This is going to tell me where I need to create the dart. So I'm going to pull it right off. And now I'm going to be doing what's called truing. And truing, like I mentioned before, is actually okay. And so now I'm going to be truing. And come over to the table area. I'm going to be using a roundish ruler to create these lines, because these lines are not specifically straight, especially the side seam and the waist area. Those are not straight lines. Those are curvier lines. So I use what's called a hip curve or a waist curve. So I'm using this ruler to create those lines just over the dotted lines that I created from the dress form. There we go. There's the side seam. Same for the waist. And you just kind of go along, follow with the ruler where it matches up the most on those dotted lines. There you go. Okay. I also want to shape a line on the dart area. So you just straight cut that. Excuse me, technical difficulties. Okay. Straight ruler for that. Making an indentation where that should go. Okay. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all along the piece so that I'll know where to sew. That line is going to show me where to sew when I'm getting ready to sew it. So I'm going all around. And then now I can cut in the area that I created that sewing line. Okay. So I'm going to cut all along there. So I'm going to put on a piece. I'm going to put the piece back on. Starting along the center. And I'm just going to pin all the way down again. And this process is only just to see that everything is correct. I don't need to make any more alterations. So I'll pin it all the way down. Okay. I'm going to pin the side seam next. waistline. Okay. And then I'm going to pin my dart. And there we are. This dress form actually is called Cushion Judy. So what's great about that is that I can stick the pins right onto her when I need to use them. So I have some here along the back. Okay. So I'm pinning, and there we go. That's the finished part. Now what I didn't show you is that I did the same for the back already. So this is the center back. This is already done. It's completed. It has its start. So I'm going to connect the two pieces together. When you do this, you want to make sure that your seams match. That's how you know that you've done a good job. So in other words, your waistlines should marry each other. They should meet. Okay. In which case they do. And had they not, what you would do is go back to the drawing board. You would just start all over again and make sure your seams match, which is very important. Because that's what's going to allow it to fit properly. Okay? So this is the skirt. This is the front. And this is the back. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.